My name is David Tran, and this is LuxTV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. We have chiropractic patient Keith Wassung in Goose Creek, South Carolina. Keith has authored over 100 health education and research articles, has been featured in periodicals such as Men's Health, Muscle and Fitness, as well as many others. And he is here to share with us his love for chiropractic. Keith, welcome to LuxTV.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's hop right to it. So I'm sure a lot of students are wondering, how did you get involved with chiropractic?
I'll give you the quick 2-minute story. Goes back almost 29 years. I was in the U.S. Navy, was a military athlete. I was the Armed Forces heavyweight weightlifting champion. Was in magazines, was on TV, had minor celebrity status, if you want to call it that. And what started off as a very simple sinus headache turned into a life-threatening condition. I started on one medication, ended up on 18. And really it was a combination of the toxicity from the medication combined with the neurological deficiency that I acquired over 21 years. Uncorrected accumulated stress in my spine from football, wrestling, fist fighting, and all the stupid things that we do. And it sent me into a tailspin in which within a month or two I was totally disabled. Couldn't work, couldn't eat. And I went from a solid 220 down to about 150 and looked like death warmed over. And was in immune system was failing. Pretty much slept in my bathroom most nights because the dry heaves would last 5, 6, 7 hours and I couldn't make it to the bathroom. And I was just a walking zombie. And the doctors finally said, listen, you're going to die. Get your affairs in order. I'm 22 years old. And while I was actually buying Christmas gifts for my family, knowing I wasn't going to be alive at Christmas 8 months later, I ran into a chiropractor at a bookstore, and he proceeded to tell me chiropractic could help me. And he was barely out of school. I mean, he was not a veteran. In fact, he was at the mall hunting patients, if you can imagine that. And he convinced me to try chiropractic. And honestly, if he had said he practiced witchcraft, he'd have had more credibility. It's just how I grew up. But my friend who had driven me to the mall said, I'll give you a ride because, what difference does it make? And I was very skeptical. I said, come on, chiropractic for, my immune system's failing. There's nothing wrong with my neck or back. That's where I was. If you're going to die, I mean, what wouldn't you try? And he adjusted me, and I felt no difference that day, but I slept through the night for the first time in about 20 months that night. Woke up the next day actually with an appetite, a little bit of energy that I'd not had. And you know what, David, it wasn't like the sky parted and I was just all of a sudden miraculously better, but every day got a little bit better. And I got off the medication. I continued to get adjusted, resumed eating, resumed doing the things. I was back to work inside of 3 weeks, was back competing inside of a year, and ended up breaking all of my previous records. And I was just very curious about how this worked, and he was unable to explain it to me. And there's a reason most chiropractic dialogue goes right over people's heads. And so I began studying and reading, and it took me about 5 or 6 months of very intensive study, and I finally understood chiropractic. I mean, I had to teach myself, and I remember thinking, how did I miss this? How come this isn't taught in school? How come I didn't learn this in college, in the military, and any of my athletic teams? And so I just had a mission 27 years ago that I was going to go out and share this, and that's what I do in my spare time. I write, I lecture, I teach. I do probably 200 public lectures every single year, sharing this concept with people out in the raw public.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about you is that we're Facebook friends, and every day you have these amazing images kind of depicting and explaining chiropractic, and communicating it to where anybody reading it could actually understand. So what do you think that students could do to kind of join your mission and reaching more of the public?
Okay. First of all, it's sort of like picture a soldier during a war who's in boot camp, and he says, "What can I do to fight the enemy?" Well, the drill instructor is going to say, "Graduate and learn to shoot." So while you're a student, you need to learn to become the best student, doctor that you can be. You need to acquire those skills. You need to learn to adjust. You need to learn to communicate. You need to learn all of these things. And I realize in every chiropractic school in the world, there's a lot of extra crap you have to learn. You know what, David? That's true in any institution. When I was in the Navy, boot camp, 13 weeks, all we did was march. I remember thinking, when am I going to use? I was on a summer, we didn't march, so every school has extra crap. Don't worry about it. Learn what's important, which is detect correct subluxations and learn to communicate and articulate the value of chiropractic at an optimal level. That's the best thing a student can do, because then they'll prepare themselves for when they get into practice. And by the way, those skills, they may not necessarily come from the institution you're attending. You may have to go outside the walls to acquire additional skills. Nothing wrong with that.
So I've watched your Vimeo video on one of your seminars where you're communicating to the public, and one of the things that stood out to me was how you actually communicate chiropractic to the medical profession. I know that's one of the things that a lot of chiropractic students would be scared to death to do. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and I do a number of lectures to medical professionals as well as medical students every year, and pre-med. David, if you were to sit in the audience and watch me lecture to a group of MDs, and then we went across the street and lectured to just a group of parents, you would see very little difference. I've not found that there's a huge need to communicate any different. Now, with the medical professionals, I might go a little more in depth. I might talk a little more detail, a little more physiology, but the process is the same. Well, let me start by saying what I don't do. Number one, chiropractic is not the first thing I'm going to talk about. It's always the last thing. It's the solution. It's where we're headed. I'm not going to start by talking about chiropractic. Number two, I'm not going to compare chiropractic to medicine. When you attempt to compare chiropractic to medicine, you automatically place chiropractic on an allopathic model or chassis in which its effectiveness can only be evidenced by its ability to clear symptoms, which in itself is unscientific. And so you want to talk more about the models, and particularly you want to talk about baseline physiology. You know, in philosophy, we learn why the body works and why the body always works the way it does. Physiology teaches us how the body works and how the body always works the way it does. And when you can put those two together, how and why, and the consistency of how and why, you've got an unbeatable message. In fact, you're using their very own books to demonstrate your purpose. You're using baseline physiology. There's not a single textbook in the world that says that health can be achieved by eliminating symptoms. There's not a single textbook in the world that doesn't talk about the supremacy of the nervous system. And so you're putting all these things in place, in foundation, how the body works, why the body works, what symptoms are, how the nervous system works, what's a nerve impulse, structure, spine. You're putting a foundation together and then talking about subluxation in a research basis to where the only possible road you can go down is chiropractic. And so you're really using their very own physiology, which takes time. It's not something you're going to have one magical quote, one little bumper sticker quote, they're going to get it. You have to build a case. It's almost like a prosecuting attorney. You're building a case, building a case, building a case. You're putting truths on top of truths and taking them right where you want them to go.
Well, that's great. You know, and another thing too is definitely being able to practice that talk too, because in schools, like, we don't put a lot of emphasis in getting in front of people and practicing speaking in front of audiences that are not your friends in lab or something like that.
I'll tell you a side story that I've really never told very many people. When I got into chiropractic and I started working with a group of chiropractors, and I had been to their workshops and their orientations and their, the Saturday seminars, and I had a chance to go talk to a group of 20 PTs here in Charleston. And I had spoken to them before about strength training, so I was already kind of speaking. And so I put together a little lecture based on all the cliches, all the things that sound cool when you're around chiropractors. I went down there and I presented, and to say that I got my ass handed to me, let me tell you, I was thoroughly, completely embarrassed. I mean, I wanted to run. And I said, never again. I will never again put myself in this position. And that's really when I went back to the drawing board and said, you know what, I've got to be able to craft this message in a way where people can get it, they can understand it, they can embrace it. And it's not about chiropractic versus medicine, it's not about adjustments versus pills. It is about a certain approach to healthcare, which is restoring structural function, improving, restoring, and maintaining a proper nerve supply. And that's really it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now my last question, what is the greatest takeaway that you want our chiropractic student audience to remember about this conversation we've been having?
Okay. future chiropractors. If you want to know what you can do for your profession, for your country, for this world, if you want to know what you can do more than anything, succeed clinically and financially in your own practice, in your community. Okay? That's what it takes. You've got to have business owner mentality. Far too many students for far too long, and they've been taught this, they get out and they become crusaders, and they have what they call Peace Corps mentality. And they say, you know what, we're gonna get the whole world under care. I would love that, but you know what? That's not a marketing strategy. And you end up serving no one. You end up changing nothing. I can't tell you how many doctors I've met who have these big programs, and they're going to change the world, and all they really need to do is make an impact in their community by succeeding, clinically and financially. Clinically to get the results, to change the mindset in their community, and financially by staying out of debt, to make some decisions, working on a direct payment system, just remove third-party payment, and have the money, make the kind of money where they can donate back to the schools, the research projects, the group efforts. That's really what it's all about. They need to succeed clinically and financially in a model where restoring nerve supply is their primary, if not their only, focus.
Wow.
And it's not difficult to do.
And that's perfect, you know. And Keith, thank you so much for sharing your light with us.
Sure.
Yeah. If you want more information or want to connect with Keith directly, check out the links below. Every week I will be uploading a new interview with another leader in the chiropractic profession. If you like this video, please share it with your classmates, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. My name is David Tran, and this was LuxTV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student.